Homage to Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to Wisdom Warrior Manjushri. Homage to all lineage masters. The Dharma, profound and subtle, seldom met in countless ages, now heard and practiced. May we realize the Tathagata's truth for all beings' liberation. Generate supreme bodhicitta.
Strictly speaking, everyone attending today's lecture should have received the empowerment. There may be a few who, for various reasons, have not. But if you haven't, I was thinking, since after all this is a prayer text and it doesn't discuss profound practices or others. So if you haven't received the empowerment, recite Vajrasattva mantra 10,000 times. Otherwise, if you listen, I would also incur faults and it might not be beneficial for you either. This is a requirement because after all, it is a prayer text. The issues mentioned within it are probably not very serious. Whether received empowerment, prayer text, in Tibet, Han regions, India, Western countries, basically almost everyone who is studying Tibetan Buddhism is in general reciting it. The issues may not be significant, so I am allowing more flexibility. Originally, I wanted to do something simple. In His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok's writings, there is a connection empowerment, simple, not giving help. But this empowerment is more convenient for me. Although it's called an empowerment, in reality, it's more of a blessing. However, there's really no time today. So we'll talk about it another time. This prayer was composed by Mipham Rinpoche. I'll briefly explain it below. As for our translation, the Institute might have two versions. There was an early translation, and later on there were some other translations as well. But I'm not exactly sure who translated them. It wasn't me, but maybe I did translate it. I don't remember. Anyway, the Chinese version should definitely be included in the Larung recitation collection. You can just look it up yourself. Why am I talking about this today? Because I might have just brought it up or mentioned it a long time ago. It was probably last summer by Tibetan or Chinese calendar last year. In June last summer, I made a vow at Wutai Mountain. I vowed to recite this prayer 10,000 times myself. And at the same time, I also made a mental aspiration to give a teaching on it. Actually, this teaching should be quite simple. There are probably only about 6 or 7 verses. But in terms of content, it is truly quite exceptional. Many Dharma friends have been reciting this for over 20 years, others for over 10. But as for the content, many people, including some of my Tibetan Dharma friends, still don't really understand it. They recite Tibetan but don't understand it. So the purpose is that everyone wants to study it together as a group. Its origin, for me, started at Wutai Mountain, where I made this vow. Now, we're not just saying this casually. It truly comes from the heart. From now on, we should do our best to benefit all sentient beings we have a karmic connection to. When helping those we're karmically connected to, we can rely on wisdom and abilities. Right now, whether it's me or many of the Vajra brothers and sisters present here, everyone faces certain difficulties. So on one hand, we ourselves need to generate the right motivation. On the other hand, we also need the blessings of many yidams, dakinis, and dharma protectors. However, when we compare our own efforts to the blessings of the deities are indeed even more important. If someone doesn't study Buddhism or is an atheist, such people may not necessarily believe this. They think that any success in this world or making their dreams come true depends solely on their own hard work and personal effort. Apart from that, they feel there may not be any other way. But that's not true. Whatever we want to do, it depends on past causes and our efforts now. In addition, we also need some external assistance, both visible and invisible, to support us, causes conditions meet. I believe there are really definitely many things that we can accomplish. So this time it's also for everyone's sake, for all of us, to make this aspiration together. Some think the task of spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings is too great and feel there's not much hope. But you shouldn't think that maybe in this lifetime I might perhaps seem to be a bit weaker in this regard. In all future lives, I have causes to spread Dharma and benefit being. Everyone knows that when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok was alive, You'd always make offerings. And even now, offerings are made in the name of Dakini Munso. When we hold Dharma assemblies, it's about 4 times daily. It's said that Dakini Munso offers 100 yuan each time so that all her lineage disciples in life after life can benefit countless sentient beings. Before the Dharma king, the wish-fulfilling jewel, passed away, he would offer an amount and have everyone recite 3 times. We recited the prayer of spontaneous accomplishment 3 times, then 5 times. This has always, without exception, been the aspiration of the lamas. When the wish-fulfilling Jewel Lama lived, he said, "May I and all of my lineage disciples benefit all sentient beings, life after life, in every existence." This prayer is truly the best and most effective. So you could say that within the Institute, this routine practice is done every day on a regular basis. At the very least, we recite it during our major lectures as well. Even in smaller settings, such as some study groups, we also recite it at those times. You could say this is the most valued practice in the Institute. And it's not just within the Institute now, wherever we go. There are places where people can't recite ritual texts, but everyone recites this prayer. In some remote areas, some elderly practitioners, many elderly people gather together. Many of them have no teeth left, and all of them have white hair. But they recite the prayer of spontaneous accomplishment in especially loud and spirited voices. They are still very expressive when they chant. Some of them are illiterata. This could be seen as a symbol of magnetizing sovereignty. We don't promote it or require everyone recite. All these years I basically haven't required anyone to recite it or made it mandatory. Never said that. Happens naturally. I've heard from many Buddhist friends in Southeast Asia and Western countries, when they began learning it, was also with this prayer. This is also an auspicious connection. So when we introduce it to everyone this time, one thing is that this prayer is extremely important. From an external perspective, this prayer enables us to liberate sentient beings and propagate the Dharma. It is truly the most important and highly effective method, you could definitely say. Could say so. And from its inner and secret meanings, it's mainly about achieving freedom of body and mind, can master our discriminating thoughts. Because each of us may not be able to control our own afflictions, discriminating thoughts, and suffering. If we overcome discriminating mind, if we can control our own mind, then we won't be swayed by external circumstances. Right now, it's not that the environment changes according to our mind, rather, our mind changes according to the environment. When the mind is swayed by external circumstances, all beings in the 3 realms of samsara suffer greatly. If anyone truly realizes the true nature of the mind, at that moment, everything that exists truly becomes free and under control. It becomes effortless for you to have all beings, human and non-human, serve you. We will not follow demons, humans, or beings of heavenly realms. If we follow external circumstances every day, we never find satisfaction and we will experience great suffering. Most of the afflictions in the world truly are caused by the body and mind not being properly tamed and adjusted. This kind of practice can truly be said to bring genuine freedom and ease to our body and mind. Even when we inevitably encounter difficulties on the road, we should always strive to dispel them all. Before we came, the last session wasn't finished. One of the stewards at the Institute announced over the loudspeaker that because of the recent heavy snowfall at the Institute, the water supply for the monastics might be difficult. He said a Seda driver vowed to deliver water to Institute monastics for 15 days. The steward said he hopes everything goes smoothly for him and asked everyone to recite the prayer for freedom once. So you see, for the driver to have a truly smooth journey on the road. After class, some elderly people find the road slippery. If you are very afraid, you can recite Oma Hong Shi as you walk, holding your cane and chanting as you go. So this truly brings great blessings. And moreover, I think that in such a sacred place as the Institute, magnetizing activities are very easily accomplished. In the past, among the Terma treasures of a Tibetan master, there was a prophecy about the Guru Rinpoche, as recorded in the Guru's biography. In the serene valley of magnetizing, lotuses bloom. In Loro, the majestic golden eagle soars through the sky. A deep, resounding voice echoes powerfully in all directions, and all the birds from near and far gather together beneath its outstretched wings. The meaning of this prophecy is essentially that in a valley formed by spontaneous magnetizing activity, our Larung Valley is truly like a so beautiful lotus flower. The Guru Rinpoche is from Loro, and the golden eagle mentioned in the prophecy refers to the Garuda. The Garuda soars through the sky, and at that time a particularly powerful voice spreads throughout the world. Birds from all over the world gather here to listen to its beautiful and enchanting voice. This was recorded in a prophecy by a great master many years ago. Therefore, when we practice Dharma, the environment and its auspicious origins are extremely important. To be completely honest, I personally really do have a great deal of confidence in magnetizing. Because for myself, many Dharma friends share this karmic connection. The very first Dharma practice I encountered when I first came to Larong Valley was the practice of the 9 deities. In about May of 1985, our guru, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, actually at that time I had just joined that Dharma assembly. That day I asked some of the elder lamas and they all said it should be so. I believe that was the first time Dharma assembly attended. It was first accomplishment Dharma at Larung. We didn't originally call it the Great Accomplishment Dharma Assembly. It was called the 9 Deities Dharma Assembly. Once the nuns' hall was completed, at that time there were many gurus and many monastics from different places. The Dharma King said it wasn't just about the monks and nuns. He said that from every corner of the world, both human and non-human accomplished beings had gathered. 100 humans and non-humans were present. Those who took part in and attended the 9 Deities Dharma Assembly this time were not just attending a meeting, in fact. That's why it was called the 100,000 Accomplished Beings Dharma Assembly. Our Institute's Dharma Assemblies are named the Accomplished Beings Dharma Assembly. Accomplished being means one who practiced Vajrayana and attained realization. As for myself, personally, indeed, this practice at the very least, I recite it a number of times every year. I participated every year, not missing a single time. Recently, I travel for lectures and miss this Dharma assembly. Every time I can't attend the assembly, I feel quite uneasy inside. However, some Dharma friends actually feel quite comfortable when they don't have to attend. They think, wow, I don't have to go to the Dharma assembly this time. I can leave. How wonderful. Maybe their mindset is a bit different from mine. I have great faith in Dharma practice. I hope that everyone here at the Institute will also value it highly, eager to attend Dharma assembly. Dharma friends left this time, and some Buddhists, outside members and non-members. I often see Dharma friends online. So for this, if you want to join Dharma assembly, 9 Deity Sadhana, even if the conditions aren't right, you can still practice this. Someone made a request to me through channels. They wanted to recite the mantra of 9 deities. Recite the combined mantra of the 9 deities. All the mantras of the 9 deities are combined together in this one. Also, if you frequently recite this prayer, that's absolutely fine. In fact, it's perfectly okay to do so. To be honest, people living in cities nowadays are actually quite miserable, whether they are wealthy or not, or have status or not. When it comes to their families, relationships, lives, money, status, wealth, and personal well-being, they face challenges. So in the end, people always feel that life's not really very happy. But most of this is actually related to our own minds to some extent. That's why we really need to rely on this kind of Dharma practice. By practicing this Dharma, we get blessings from 9 deities, blessings of other Dharma protectors and Dakinis. This allows our minds to gradually become clearer and purer. When the mind is truly pure and tamed, it can then master the external world. This practice is referred to as prayer for magnetizing activity. In some places, it is called the prayer for spontaneous encompassing. It can also, in some cases, be called the prayer for mastering present circumstance. All these names work. If we call it the prayer for magnetizing activity, it essentially means it is a prayer to accomplish the activity of magnetizing. So, who are we praying to? Our prayers are to the 9 deities. And who is the one praying? It is us who wish and hope for our magnetizing activity to be fully accomplished. So we are the ones who are praying. The objects of our prayer are the 9 deities and the ocean-like assembly of all holy beings. The main purpose of this name is specifically to indicate that this is a prayer for us to accomplish the activity of magnetizing. Magnetizing, some haven't studied Vajrayana and may not know it. After studying Vajrayana, the goal is to accomplish its enlightened activities. For example, when we attend a university, perhaps after graduating from university, what do? You need to get a job, work, this task or that, and there are various things you're supposed to do. In Vajrayana practice, personal accomplishment is not discussed. 4 enlightened activities need realization. While realizing oneself, there are 4 enlightened activities that benefit sentient beings. Among the 4 enlightened activities, the first is pacifying, whether for you or others. It is about pacifying illnesses, harmful spirits, conflicts, and all kinds of adverse conditions. Such practices are often called pacifying practice. They exist in Prajna and Vajrayana. For example, our Vajrasattva practice can be considered a pacifying practice. It serves to pacify all the negative karma and obscurations we have accumulated in our mind streams since beginningless time. This is a method of practice. This is one kind of method. There is another kind of increase, enhancement. Enhancement of what, you may ask? During our process of study and practice, we enhance our reputation, wealth, and status. Even worldly and transcendental wisdom and merit, these too should be enhanced. These also require certain practices that can help us enhance them. For example, if you want to develop wisdom, you should practice the Manjushri sadhana. If you want to increase compassion, you should practice the Avalokiteshvara practice. If you want to increase your wealth, you can practice the wealth deity method and so on. These are called increasing activities in nature, activities that bring enhancement. Magnetizing activities mean that your mind attains freedom and mastery. People and non-human beings. Originally, if you wanted to restrain them, to control or subdue them, you simply just couldn't do it. Not at all, absolutely impossible. But after you practice this method, in the future, in your entire world, if previously no one would listen to you, as you keep practicing, for example, if your parents or your relatives and friends used to oppose you, no one really pays much attention to you. Not even non-human beings, in fact, they often end up harming you. You might even encounter a dog on the street and it shows you no respect and so on. At times like these, we practice magnetizing activities. After practicing magnetizing activities, your body and mind gain freedom. If your own mind is not capable, then trying to restrain or to conquer the external world is simply impossible, truly impossible. But when your own mind truly attains its essence, then in fact, externally, I have unwavering faith in this. Look at our guru, the wish-fulfilling jewel. Actually, it was like this. After the Cultural Revolution, in such a degenerate age, an era that was especially dark and powerful, he appeared in the world. But at that time, the unique ability of a single individual should, in principle, far surpass that of many other people when all factors are considered. In fact, nowadays, some Dharma teachers and people, when their magnetizing activities reach mastery, they don't necessarily have to go to each and every person painstakingly. Please, could you perhaps, if possible, take refuge? Could you receive the Bodhisattva vows? I must transmit them to you today. No problem. My brand is 100% authentic. You don't need to beg many people so earnestly. Wish to spread the Dharma, benefit, but before your magnetizing activities are accomplished, no one will pay attention to you. They'll look down on you, dismiss you with contempt, and act like that in front of you. If your own mind becomes gentle and flexible, open to change and understanding, and you also receive the genuine blessings of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, whose compassion and wisdom are boundless, and whose blessing, even if you are just an ordinary, very average person, your future endeavors to spread the Dharma and benefit beings will still be vast. Your life will improve too. As our previous guru, the wish-fulfilling jewel, said, if we accomplish magnetizing activities, even our daily lives will improve. For example, if you used to have nothing to eat or wear and suffered greatly, every day you would spend all your money and had to borrow from everywhere. Eventually, whenever people saw you, they were afraid, wondering if you were coming to borrow money from them. But after you practiced this Dharma, you noticed that many different people from various backgrounds started coming to you one after another to borrow money or to ask for loans. So it can be said that this Dharma is very profound. There are actually quite a few different aspects to this, but I won't go into too much detail about them today at this moment. In short, this is what the activity of magnetizing is like. Then, in Vajrayana, subjugation activities are called wrathful activities. This is when our great compassion and miraculous power have become fully perfected. When there is no selfishness and one has fully realized emptiness through certain Vajrayana practices, such as the practice of Hayagriva or the Vajrakilaya sadhana, one can use these methods to liberate the consciousness of some barbaric beings who destroy Buddhism. This process is carried out so that their minds can be carefully and securely transferred to a different state or form, which enables each person to ultimately achieve a sense. But generally speaking, among the four activities, this one is, as far as I can tell, the most difficult. On the surface, it may seem like this is actually killing or subjugating. It is somewhat difficult to accept. But in fact, this is also an especially supreme method of transference. This is called karmic subjugation. The four enlightened activities. In Vajrayana Buddhism, this is a particularly unique and profound form of practice. Of course, some people who, for various reasons, do not fully understand Vajrayana or who hold prejudices against it may not believe in it. If they don't, nothing can be done. I often use this example. For instance, as an illustration, a particularly good medicine, someone who has no trust at all in this medicine simply won't believe in it. But even if he doesn't believe, there are still many people who will use the medicine. So it's not lacking in users. Some people simply don't believe in Vajrayana at all and are unwilling to practice it. And when they hear these things, they feel it's pure fantasy, something completely impossible. This is because, for them really, from their point of view, it's like a cave facing north, which will never be illuminated by the sunlight from the sky under any circumstances. Such people cannot receive the profound empowerment of Vajrayana, so we generally do not concern ourselves with them much anymore. In Vajrayana, generally only those who are truly connected and have faith can achieve realization. Therefore, it is hoped that this prayer should be recited frequently. As for this prayer, among its three aspects, the initial meaning, the main meaning, and the final meaning, the first one, the initial meaning of the concept, is the title. In other words, it can also be called the prayer for magnetizing activities, or the prayer for mastering all existence, clouds of blessings. In fact, its blessings are, without a doubt, particularly especially abundant. It can be said to be like rain falling from summer clouds. Whoever among us prays regularly, the blessings naturally manifest from the clouds of blessings with their power. It can also be said that, in fact, these blessings allow us to receive them within a very short period of time. I believe that probably many people in their daily lives recite this. In the future, I also hope that if one truly wishes to attain liberation, life after life, there are profound interdependent connections and aspirations made by precious Guru. He did not actually say this just now. Didn't the Dharma King mention it earlier, before? He said, after I pass away, there will be many disciples of the lineage. There are practitioners who have never even heard the voice of the precious Guru, nor seen his physical form. But with the Guru's care for us, if we recite this prayer today, it means that we are already living under the compassionate blessings of the Guru. One could say that this is in fact a kind of thoughtful foresight and anticipation from the Guru for the times to come in the future, for what lies ahead. When I first came to this beautiful, peaceful valley, I sometimes truly, honestly found myself thinking, just standing here. This morning, as I was reciting the ritual, I was thinking while chanting, because for the first time holding the Vajra recitation Dharma assembly, there must be a lot of the Guru's wisdom drawing us in. At that particular time, I was actually still in school, and hadn't finished my studies yet, but I had a very strong desire to become a monk. I think it must have been an invisible blessing that drew me in. Even though I myself had not yet found peace in both body and mind at that particular time, it should truly be considered a profound and intangible blessing from the Guru, indeed. There are also many people in some monasteries who wish to spread the Dharma and guide disciples. There are a few people, some of whom have a bit of altruistic motive. But many people, even if they wish for it in their hearts, may not have such good karmic connections. Their activities may not necessarily be so vast. As for our precious Guru, to be honest, he was the Vajra demon tamer during the time of Guru Padmasambhava. Such an extraordinary, accomplished master should indeed possess this kind of ability. But on the other hand, I do in fact have the freedom, the real freedom, to do business. He had already accomplished magnetizing, one of the 4 enlightened activities. As you can see, this is very closely related to such reasons. Otherwise, after our precious Guru passed into parinirvana, logically speaking, this valley of ours, as you can see, should have become empty. In the very beginning, that was our thought as well. That was my thought too, once our precious Guru, as we all know, departed from this world. Everything changed. Would we even really come to Sefdar again? Even if we did, perhaps this whole valley would have almost certainly turned into ruins. Even if there were a few practitioners left, we probably wouldn't know any of them at all. I even wondered 3 or 4 years after the Guru passed away, would there still be some people left at the academy? I used to think this way. But now, thanks to the incredible and immeasurable power of our magnetizing and the heartfelt aspirations and wishes our precious Guru made during his life, we have had a quite significant impact on the Dharma indeed. This is not simply to praise or to honor our own Guru, as Mifam Rinpoche also said in one sentence. Even when speaking about your rude Guru, you should not use exaggerated or made up words to praise them. Even in my dreams, I never had such thoughts. Speaking truthfully is extremely important in our lives. Even for an ordinary person, it truly matters. All the more so, especially for someone who's diligently studying, learning, and engaging with the Dharma in particular. That's why when I express some of my own thoughts or opinions, I do so in a very straightforward and direct manner. This practice of magnetizing activity, each of you should truly treat it as your lifelong, ongoing practice. I always do this, no matter where I go. Even if I just visit a peaceful monastery or stand before a serene Buddha statue, I don't know how to make other aspirations. But I just recite this supplication 3 times. From now on, let's call it the supplication to magnetizing, shall we? Otherwise, the name is too long. Self-liberated supplication, great self-liberated supplication. In our institute, there are several names for this supplication. But from now on, how about we just call it the supplication to magnetizing for simplicity? Anyway, you can use several different methods to interpret it. It's up to you. So in the future, where you are, in the past, when our precious Guru traveled to many different countries around the world to pay homage to various sacred Buddha statues and temples, including when he went on pilgrimage to the sacred mountains of India, he would first recite this supplication 3 times. So, fellow practitioners, recite aspiration of Samantabhadra and supplication to Guru Hwaye. If you yourself recite such supplications every morning and evening, diligently and regularly, with blessings of Holy One's body and mind will attain freedom. First of all, the entire supplication, as it is presented here, can generally be thoroughly explained in 3 main aspects. That is, understanding the mandala of the object of supplication, the mandala of the deity to whom you are praying, then how to supplicate with genuine intention and devotion, and finally, the process of respectfully requesting siddhi, which means seeking spiritual accomplishment. In other words, you need to clearly recognize the mandala deity, the deity who is the object of your supplication. This involves the process of supplicating, which means earnestly praying or making humble requests, and ultimately making a formal request. The first part is divided into invoking with mantras and clearly explaining the object of supplication. There are 2 aspects to this, starting with the first. This is the same in the Tibetan text as well as in the Chinese text. Why is there an Om Ahang Shi at the beginning? It is to invoke with a mantra. When invoking with a mantra, Om Ahang, as we have discussed before, this is what is called the all-encompassing mantra, a phrase that truly includes everything in every sense. It is also called the Vajra body, Vajra speech, and Vajra mind of all Buddhas of the 10 directions, and 3 times Om is the Vajra body of all Buddhas, Ah is the Vajra speech, and Hung is the Vajra mind. In other words, the body, speech, and mind of all Buddhas in the world can all be invoked using Om Ahang. The 100 Mantra Merits explains the merits of Om Ahang. I won't elaborate on this any further at this point in time. But why is there a she appearing at the very end? Because this specific form of practice in the tradition of Vajrayana, as it is understood, actually belongs to the Lotus family. In other words, that is to say, for the following 9 principal deities listed below, as described in the subsequent section, all of their heart mantras are able to be replaced with the syllable she. Next, we will talk about the Dharmakaya Amitabha, Sambhogakaya Vajra, and Nirmanakaya Guru Padmasambhava, as well as compassionate Avalokiteshvara, the Guhyajnana Dakini who embodies profound insight, and Kurukulla, known for mastery of esoteric knowledge. Also Hayagriva, Vajravarahi, and Maheshvara. There are 9 principal deities. Previously, there was a Thanka painting that we talked about. I believe I gave everyone a copy of that painting for you to look at and study. Just to confirm, everyone received their copy, didn't you? This one is relatively small. In the future, perhaps every Dharma friend should have one. After this painting, maybe, just maybe, some people among you already have it. I hope that in the future, since we recite these often, Dharma friends will. We can also include it in some of our books. Actually, when His Holiness the Wish-Fulfilling Jewel was alive, he specifically arranged for this and had a very famous artist paint it. This is also called the 9 principal deities. Although there are many different and sometimes contrasting views among great masters regarding the identification of the 9 principal deities, the ritual for 9 principal deities comes from a terma by Guru Padmasambhava. Later, it was discovered by the previous incarnation of His Holiness, the great Tertön Latsun Namkha Jigme. This prayer, as you may know, is prayed by Mipham Rinpoche. Strictly speaking, this sequence and these aspects may not correspond exactly, but for the most part, they really do correspond. Therefore, what we want everyone to understand is that the main objects of our supplication are the 9 principal deities. Of course, each of the 9 principal deities is surrounded by countless retinues and holy beings. So now, regarding the 9 principal deities, let's begin by starting from the very center itself, first of all. At the very top in the center is the Dharmakaya Buddha of infinite light, which is Amitabha Buddha, the compassionate one, equivalent to Samantabhadra Tathagata. Actually, there are some slight differences in the way this is depicted. In other representations, Samantabhadra Tathagata is blue. The Dharmakaya Buddha of infinite light is depicted in the meditation mudra, just like the Dharmakaya Samantabhadra Tathagata, the bright red one, which is, Next is Vajradharma, which is, in fact, the Sambhogakaya Vajradharma. This specifically corresponds to Vajradhara Tathagata, who is not red in color, but rather is depicted with a different hue. It represents the Sambhogakaya form. He holds a bell and a Vajra in his hands, forming the Sambhogakaya Vajradharma. The one in the center is white. As you might notice, some say this is Vajrasattva. But in this prayer text, he is the Lotus King. That is Guru Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava is the Nirmanakaya, Amitabha is the Dharmakaya, truth body, and Vajradharma is the Sambhogakaya. Some say that Vajradharma is a bodhisattva. In Tang esoteric tradition, Vajradharma bodhisattva belongs to Lotus family. But here, in my own view, the one in the center should be the Sambhogakaya. One of the main ways in which Padmasambhava can be distinguished from other figures is by looking at the color of his body, as this is a key feature that sets him apart from the rest. Great Illusory Net has other reasons. So the main deity is white. Padmasambhava, who is the central figure, is positioned in the center. Coming down slowly, gradually and gently from your left side, just now, this is the red Avalokiteshvara holding a lotus in hand. Well, as far as I can tell, this should be the Vajra wisdom mother, and this one is the Vidyadhari mother. We will talk about each of these in detail later. For now, I'll just give you a general overview. If you could please look over to your right ears, just in that direction, I believe that's where you'll find what I'm referring to. At the very top of the arrangement, you can see Hayagriva, who is depicted above all others, and just below him in the composition is Vajravarahi. At the very bottom is Maheshvara, which is read all of these are red. So when we pray to the 9 principal deities, whether we are holding a Vidyadhara puja or just have a small framed photo of our loved one thoughtfully placed on our altar at home for remembrance, we often recite these prayers, and people have been reciting them for over 10 years. In this way, the blessings from the principal deity are very powerful. Of course, this is best for true Vajrayana practitioners. Otherwise, some people nowadays may not understand the profound views of Vajrayana Buddhism, and no yabhyam, sexual union, is shown. There are still some elements, such as naked forms adorned with bone ornaments, which might cause some people to develop wrong views. they have not yet fully understood or grasped the true profound essence truly of Vajrayana. So for such people, some of the real and essential principles of Vajrayana simply cannot be accepted by them. That is why I am explaining it to you this way today. Now, with regard to these 9 principal divine deities that we are discussing here, whether it is the Dharmakaya Buddha Amitabha, the Sambhogakaya Vajra form, or the Nirmanakaya Padmasambhava, their mantra is quite specifically the word renunciation. Although some of Padmasambhava's heart mantras also contain the syllable ham, some great masters of the past have explained that this is because of specific manifestations of Padmasambhava. In fact, Padmasambhava is the emanation of the share syllable from the heart of Amitabha Buddha. Then, in the vast and mysterious ocean, he miraculously manifested as the extraordinary Padmasambhava, who was born from within a radiant lotus flower. Therefore, he is closely connected with the lotus family, and his heart mantra is also the syllable share. Likewise, whether it is Vajra Varahi, Red Avalokiteshvara, or Vajra Sarasvati, for each of them, the heart mantra they hold is the sacred syllable share, which is the same for all, Vajrayogini, Hayagriva, and Mahadeva. Their heart mantras, as well as their seed syllables, are also in fact share. Why is it Om Ahungri here? Specifically in this particular context, the seed mantra for all 9 of the deities is the sacred word share. If one recites these seed syllable mantras of Vajra speech, which are imbued with the blessings of the accomplished masters of the past, then these deities, in ultimate sense or context of emptiness, as sometimes described, all the Dharmakaya free from the 4 extremes and the 8 fabrications, beyond all conceptual elaboration and appearances. However, about appearance, the positive karmic roots of sentient beings to be guided, as well as the aspirations they made in past lives, come together as condition. When we recite the word share, whether we say it out loud or simply repeat it quietly in our minds, it is just like the familiar and touching moment when a young child, perhaps feeling alone or in need of comfort, calls out for his mother. Instinctively and without a second thought, the mother, guided by her deep love and natural care, immediately. That is why, at times, the blessings of certain realized beings and the Vajra speech of these holy beings provide such a skillful means. Why does reciting the mantra Om Mani Padme Hung Hri have such great merit? Moreover, when we recite Amitabha Buddha's name or Amitabha's heart mantra, we can completely connect with the Buddha and Bodhisattvas with sincerity. This is the inconceivable power of mantras. And also because of the mantra and the seed syllable. It's like using a hook to draw a fish over, requiring patience and a gentle touch, carefully guiding it closer without scaring it away much. In this way, by reciting the seed syllable mantra, the holy being, in terms of dependent origination and appearance, can let his blessings come swiftly. For example, there is a certain young disciple who is currently learning under a master who calls out to his guru with especially compassionate words. When the guru is filled with compassion, he cannot help but respond. In the same way, you may wonder, why do we recite the mantra Om Aham Share at the very beginning of our practice each time? In general, it represents the union of the body, speech, and mind of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. It is a dependent origination that allows all the holy beings to bless me. So these 9 principal deities, all those belonging to the Lotus family, can bless our body and mind, granting us freedom and the accomplishment of karmic activities. Moreover, all the deities who can govern the entire world will naturally appear before you. Therefore, when we pray, everyone should indeed still have a real sense of confidence. Vidyadhara Dharma Assembly. In the small Tibetan script, it is included when we recite. When we recite the refuge prayer in the morning, in its small script it says, let us take a moment to gently prepare ourselves, setting aside any distractions, and with a joyful heart, get ready to begin reciting the refuge, appreciating the significance of this meaningful practice. Many people do indeed have this experience. At first glance, some people may look gloomy and worried, but when they recite the prayer of magnetizing activities, they are very happy, and their expressions are different. Some people hold the prayer wheel chanting Om Ahung Shi, Dichimbao Wangepo, Zhuangde Didonsosuru Boyeksige. It seems as if, naturally, all the afflictions in one's mind have disappeared. I can even tell simply just by looking at their expressions, It truly has a kind of blessing power. As they turn the prayer wheel, maybe I can't finish talking, I keep dragging it out. It seems like the time hasn't come yet, right? For the first line, we talked about 4 verses earlier. First of all, what it really talks about, it should be said and it should be noted that in the outline or summary, understanding the object is also divided into 2 different aspects or perspectives. Earlier, it was specifically about the qualities or the foundational basis of the 9 main and principal deities. Actually, His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso has a Tibetan commentary on the prayer text. I plan to translate this commentary. If translated, it has Terma references, as well as some other unique and individual teachings from renowned great masters. So these teachings, if we translate them directly, sometimes they might also be rather difficult to understand. But his outline, plus in some places there might be different ways of interpretation. If you understand Tibetan, the way each person describes or explains things in their own unique way may not be exactly the same. I feel that this too is a valid method of interpretation. You can also interpret it in your own unique way using your own wisdom. But according to my understanding and perspective, the first 4 lines, they actually form a single, unified verse. The blazing palace of great bliss, the body of wisdom of wondrous discernment, union of bliss and emptiness. Within the radiant lotus nature of non-attachment and bliss, the magnificent and great brilliance of the profound Vajra sun disk. This verse, one could say, refers to the 9 deities. Each of the 9 deities that we will discuss below has its own unique characteristics. When we talk about the 9 deities later on, specifically in terms of grammar and linguistic structure, adverbial and attributive modifiers for the later subject, right? So the qualities that adorn the latter part can be explained in this way. First, the opening line specifically speaks about the dwelling place of the 9 deities. What is their abode? It is the blazing palace of great bliss and gentle embrace, deities. Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. What place do they live in? It is great bliss. Great bliss is a kind of wisdom. It is not simply that we feel very happy or comfortable. It is a special wisdom that is free from all conceptual thought and transcends worldly phenomena. The activity embrace is radiant with wisdom. As for their palace, it is one that can gently embrace all beings. Palaces include the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, each unique. If it is indeed the Dharmakaya palace, then it truly transcends all possible boundaries. It is free from all directions above, below, sides, and from conceptual thought and speech. Such an ineffable nature of wisdom is truly called transcendence. If it is the Sambhogakaya palace, then the Sambhogakaya palace itself can also be said to possess 5 kinds of adornments, as well as countless halls. Just like when we discussed the Great Illusory Net Sutra, it describes the secret pure Buddha field with all its inner and outer splendor. This includes halls and everything surrounding them. However, ordinary beings cannot see this. In other words, it is the blazing of great bliss and wisdom, and this palace is formed by the compassionate activity of the bodhisattvas. If it is the Nirmanakaya, then it corresponds to the pure land of ultimate bliss, or a particularly pure Buddha field. That is to say, the great bliss and wisdom are truly and fully manifested. Moreover, there is nothing impure herein of the ordinary worldly earth, stones, trees, and so on. It is such an extremely pure palace. Therefore, whether it is the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, or Nirmanakaya, any of them, the abode of the 9 principal deities should be described as in the first sentence. Then the second sentence is, blissful emptiness, holy and wonderful observation of the wisdom body. This mainly refers to the wisdom bodies of the 9 principal deities. As we will discuss below, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, Bodhisattvas, all of these are truly inseparable bliss and emptiness, put simply. In other words, they are the unchanging, ever-present, great bliss and profound wisdom, all supremely excellent emptiness, in fact, emptiness and bliss. One is described as object and the other as subject. In other words, it is the state where wisdom and the world merge in inconceivable state. Such a state is one of complete integration. It means the wisdom of sublime discernment. As we know, generally speaking, it is often the case that there are 5 kinds of wisdom: the wisdom of accomplishing activities, the great mirror-like wisdom, the wisdom of the nature of the Dharmadhatu, the wisdom of sublime discernment. Among these 5 kinds of wisdom, the sublime discernment wisdom is generally related to worldly desire. Desire in the 5 poisons turns into wisdom, sublime discernment. In other words, the wisdom of sublime discernment is able to realize the true nature of all phenomena. In its manifestation, not the slightest confusion. Everything is understood and entirely free from mixture or confusion. What is the wisdom body of each of the 9 principal deities below? Bliss and emptiness are inseparable. It has an indescribable and sublime nature of sublime discernment wisdom. Among the 5 kinds of wisdom, does Dharmakaya Amitabha have other types of wisdom? Certainly, indeed, all 5 wisdoms are complete. But here, the focus is the wisdom of sublime discernment. I think that each of the following holy deities possesses the wisdom body of sublime discernment. This refers to the wisdom body which every holy deity possesses. Third point, innate nature of blissful lotus free from desire. That is to say, in reality, every Buddha is, for example, the eastern direction is the Vajra family, the southern is the Ratna family, the western side is the Lotus family, the northern side is the Karma family, and the center is the Tathagata family. 5 Buddha families. This is also found in Chinese and Tibetan esoteric Buddhism, with the Buddhas of the 5 families discussed. So for the 5 Buddha families, each Buddha in this particular context corresponds to and is connected with their own unique lineage. The practice that we are doing together this time, in fact, actually belongs to the characteristics of the Lotus family, for example, are mainly represented by the color red. After completing the practice, where do we go? Well, we go to the Western Buddha of infinite light. Our Guru mentioned this before. Everyone wishes to be reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss. Therefore, this kind of Dharma is especially unique. No matter from the perspective of ground path of fruition, it is very suitable in every aspect. This sentence mainly explains in detail the choice of the Lotus family among the 5 Buddha families. What is the Lotus family? The lotus here is used as a metaphor. It means being free from all attachment and desire. The great blissful wisdom free from desire is the Lotus family of Amitabha, the Buddha of infinite light. All the bodhisattvas mentioned below belong to the Lotus family. Their color, except for a few special cases, is all red. So, as we will discuss later, in some practices as well, the color red is generally very important. Typically, when we had everyone recite prayer spontaneous accomplishment, right? Many people bought red prayer beads. I was thinking this time I must recite a bit more, especially at the beginning. Many of you, at the very beginning, when it was first mentioned, everyone noticed this. Many people were using prayer beads that in fact were not the ones that had been bought earlier that day. At that time, the Academy store was completely sold out. The shop owners kept raising the prices. They sold for 5 yuan, then later 500 yuan. That happened too. But whether you bought them for 500 yuan or 50 yuan, if you use the set of prayer beads, that's fine. There's really no difference. But if you want to choose, for example, different deities, Palyu Lama practiced many methods. He had over a dozen prayer beads in one bag. Whenever he practiced a particular deity, he would feel around, then begin. Later, when old, he couldn't see, so he felt around. This is the one I use, it, take it out. And after finishing, a Dharma friend was there who had 7 precious prayer beads, but they were all stolen by a thief. He was very upset, and I told him, you still need to practice more patience. Everything else about this is perfectly fine, but I just really can't stand the bees at all. They really bother me. What should I do about this situation? The main point about all 9 deities below is, for example, like a lotus unstained by the mute, even though the lotus family is in the world, the worldly desires have truly never tainted them at all. whether you are practicing Vajrayogini or any other yidam, especially in this degenerate age, people's desires and cravings are extremely strong. Many people, whether they are young or old, find themselves unable to control their desires when faced with them. Many people in this process end up abandoning or breaking their vows, or are often unable to manage their own practice. The masters have mentioned this, especially for monastics or those who have taken lay precepts. If you wish for your vows to remain pure always, then reciting this is advised. Additionally, praying to Vajrayogini is also extremely effective. All impure discursive thoughts can immediately be purified and transformed into the wisdom of discriminating awareness. Or, through the divine blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Lotus family and the compassionate guidance, it is as if a touchstone instantly turns iron into gold, so that impure discursive thoughts quickly become stainless wisdom. Therefore, all the Buddhas mentioned below actually possess the qualities of the Lotus family. The first line refers to the palace. The second describes their wisdom bodies. The third line in particular speaks about the Tathagata's lineage. Fourth line, Doje Nimanangwa Chempowa. This means the supreme qualities of Vajrasan's great radiance. Vajrasan, Vajra means indestructible in Sanskrit, referring to the unconditioned nature of reality. Sun means the sun, that is sunlight. The radiance of the Vajra sun is great brilliance of wisdom, can never be destroyed. What is this great brilliance? It's a red light. Generally, the moon emits a white light, while the sun gives off a reddish-yellow light. What is the nature of the darkness that can be dispelled or driven away by this particular kind of light, which possesses the remarkable power to overcome and banish even the deepest shadows? It dispels discriminations, wrong views, and evil thoughts, preventing us from performing karma. Since beginningless time, we are not at ease because of selfish thoughts and this kind of ignorant darkness. All of this ignorant darkness is dispelled by the wisdom radiance of the great Vajra sun, supreme qualities. This is true for each of the 9 deities that are listed below. They dispel our mind, the ignorance and discrimination dominated by selfishness, which prevent us from accomplishing karmic acts. This kind of ignorance, whether in the Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, or Dharmakaya, as well as the wisdom of deities and dakinis, like the red-yellow radiance of the Vajra sun, can dispel, eliminate, and drive away all of our darkness. So this should be from their career perspective. In terms of body, speech, mind, and activity, this is how I interpret it. But I'm not sure about this method of explanation. Others may not interpret it this way. This is how I think about it. In this way, perhaps, because below we will discuss each of the 9 principal deities. There are also some explanations. The Vajra sun's brilliance is Dharmakaya's boundless light's merit. But if so, it seems that the previous 4 lines of the verse would in fact be quite difficult to explain. There is this explanation, and it can be seen that way too. Everyone's understanding and method of explanation are different. So I personally think, could it be that each of the 9 principal deities below, maybe in our next class we'll introduce each of the 9 principal deities one by one. Introducing 9 deities. They share a common abode, which is the palace of the Lord of enriching activity. They share the wisdom of discriminating awareness. They share a common family, which is the Lotus family. That is, they all are classified as members of the Lotus family of plants. They share a common quality. It is the powerful and radiant Vajra of the sun that can drive away and banish the darkness of our negative karma. Great Sun Vajra. In the Manjushri's True Name Sutra, it is also mentioned as the Vajra Great Radiance. The meaning of Vajra Great Radiance is that it can dispel all darkness. Therefore, each of these Buddhas can dispel darkness. To be honest, for those of us present here in this world, we cannot share that Dharma benefits sentient beings or subdue afflictions. Many people are still quite confused, but if we pray with a very sincere and genuinely respectful heart, then Buddha's and Bodhisattvas' blessings are inconceivable. They should enable us to quickly, completely, and thoroughly eliminate all forms of afflictions that are rooted in greed, helping us to overcome the negative influences and difficulties that arise from such desires. We will join the 9 principal deities. In the future, when practicing or spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, there won't be major obstacles in many aspects. So everyone should definitely use this skillful method to pray. I meant to discuss 9 principal deities, but I rambled. Therefore, we'll stop here for today.
Bandhangara Padmasada Bandhangara Padmasada